What's up, YouTube? We are back again with another video. It's been a while since I've made a video, but I go through these cycles, man, where I just really need to dial into work. You know, I'm a one-man army currently working on expanding that army and putting some of my tasks onto, other people that I've, seemed to, realize can do a better job at it than I can. And so that's kind of the stage where I'm at. We've hit a new milestone in revenue, and so we're just continuing to move forward. As I told you guys in the past, this channel is all about business, fitness, and mindset. And more important now, that I'm having a child, I want to really stick on the mindset portion. I'm going for a walk, taking the dogs out, and just taking this time to just really think about how I feel. I've been making a decent amount of money for, quite some time, at least I would say like a full year and a half, amounts that I didn't think was attainable. And now that I know that I'm having a child, there's a fire that's lit under me, that's even hotter than what it was before. And I've always had a fire underneath me. But, I'm starting to also realize that there's no real feeling between, doing $30,000 a month or 60. At least I haven't personally felt, any different between the two. And that kind of worries me because, I'm starting to realize that as a numbers guy, I went to school for finance, that necessarily might not be a good thing. And I actually was having a conversation with a buddy of mine while we were walking around Lake Eola, and a guy pretty much jumped into our conversation. He kind of eavesdropped, and then we ended up having a conversation about ethics and morals and principles and how they kind of fit in with income and the certain things that you have to do to make a certain amount of income, and how it might make you feel inside. We went down this whole this whole rabbit hole that kind of got me thinking, like, what is the reason for chasing a number, especially if you don't really feel a difference. You might have a small amount of what's the word, you might feel a little bit euphoric, or maybe that's not the word. You might feel the adrenaline from maybe checking a bank statement and realizing that you surpassed the previous month, but then that goes away and now you're chasing that same feeling month after month. So the guy that butted into our conversation, he was asking me questions like, if you worked for a company or owned a company, and artificial intelligence allows you to save $50,000 a year by firing this person, and implementing the system only costs you $5,000, would you do it? And my answer was yes. And to be quite honest with you, from that answer, he went down a whole rabbit hole that I was not prepared for, because I don't necessarily feel that way. I'm not willing to rip someone's ability to feed them their family right underneath them, but society has kind of convinced us that that's just the way of the land, especially if you want to be successful. And so sometimes when I'm having these moments when things are going great, and I'm trying to think about what's coming next, I kind of have these moments where I'm not saying that I'm not happy, but I'm not saying that I'm the happiest person either. There's like a contradiction between the things that I feel and the things that I do, and I'm just trying to just walk and think of these things, and hopefully you guys can watch this video, and if you have your own thoughts of your own, chime in. So I'm really trying to figure out at what point would it be good enough, whether it's 50,000 a month, 20,000 a month, at what point would I ever be satisfied? And if I needed to get to 100,000 a month, if I felt like that was something that needed to be done, what steps do I have to take to make that possible? You know, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I don't want to take advantage of people. And, you know, this guy kind of put things into my perspective where it's like, you know, are you choosing people over money? And even though I don't feel as if, you know, I'm making that type of decision, is that something that is destined to happen? You know, and I'm really just thinking out loud, you know, and you guys are here thinking out loud with me. So, you know, I'm still trying to gather my thoughts, but it kind of just had me thinking, you know. I got this thing is all messed up, but yeah, I mean, how do you guys feel about that? You know, at what point does ethics and morals and business collide? You know, can you build a business that makes $100,000, $200,000 a month that is still, can you, you know, build a business that makes $100,000 a month, $200,000 a month that's still heavily, you know, consistent with, you know, morals and ethics and not treating people like a number, you know? And I go back to the AI example. While we were having this conversation, another guy walks by and he chimes in, and, you know, these things are all happening in a way that I wish I had, you know, purchased these Meta glasses earlier so that I could have recorded this exchange, you know. But a guy comes by and he's like, you know, I was a developer making $300,000 a year and I just lost my job due to artificial intelligence. And, you know, I said to him, you know, how does that make you feel? Do you feel as if it was a personal attack on, you know, you, or do you just feel like it was a business move and, you know, it just had to be done in the best of the company? And, you know, that is what, you know, the conversation was pretty much about. Like, at what point does profits, you know, go over people? You know, like, you know, this guy had a family to feed. You know, he was once making $300,000, and, you know, now his company is choosing to maybe pay for something that's, you know, maybe less than 1/3 his cost. You know, at what point does ethics and business collide? You know, so I'm just rambling off. I'm just having these thoughts as I'm walking my dogs, but you guys let me know what you think, you know. And when is it enough? You know, and is there a number that you have in mind, and what are you willing to do to get there? You know, is ethics and morals off the table? Is it all about just a dollar amount? You know, is this something that we signed up for? You guys chime in the comment section and let me know what you guys think. Peace.